be quarterly updates from my ministry on our stewardship and the actions taken towards achieving the reset agenda of His Excellency. In the first quarter of 2025, the Ministry of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation laid a solid foundation for a digitally resilient Ghana that delivers real value and opportunity for every Ghanaian. The technology sector is a central pillar of Ghana's economic reset and is critical to positioning Ghana at the top of the digital and competitive global economy. Recognizing this, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama made a pre-election promise to launch the 1 Million Coders program, a bold initiative to train 1 million young Ghanaians in digital skills, empowering them to thrive in the rapidly growing business process outsourcing and knowledge process outsourcing sectors. As a ministry, we have quickly moved to turn this vision into action, to equip our youth for the future of work through the 1 Million Coders program. The ministry has launched intensive efforts to mobilize partners and secure the resources needed to implement the program and deliver results at scale through strategic diplomacy and public-private partnerships. Under my guidance, the Ghana-India Kofi Annan Center for Excellence in ICT has developed a standardized curriculum and multiple digital skill disciplines at the beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels to enable a uniform training ecosystem for all Ghanaians, irrespective of the part of our country in which they reside. A landmark memorandum of understanding was signed with the MTN Group in Barcelona a few weeks ago, with several other agreements with other private Ghanaian and international partners currently being finalized to support implementation of the 1 Million Coders program, all aligned with our commitments to positioning Ghana as Africa's premier digital talent hub. The level of interest and support from the private sector is a testament to the visionary leadership of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. I am confident that several private partnership verticals will see us achieve the ambitious goal of positioning Ghana as a net exporter of critical digital skills in the short to medium term. The ministry will launch the program with a pilot covering Greater Accra, Ashanti, Bono, and the Upper East regions exactly a week from today on April 16th, with over 250 people from Accra, Bolga, Sunyani, and Kumasi expected to participate in the launch. The program is inclusive by design with an integrated 50-50 gender split. Further, we would leverage our district assemblies and community information centers in the subsequent implementation phases to ensure that the program reaches every corner of Ghana, not just urban centers. And at this juncture, I want you to know that the website is active for all citizens who intend to take part in the pilot to go online and register. The URL is www.1millioncoders.gov.gh. I repeat, www.1millioncoders.gov.gh. At the core of digital inclusion is affordable internet access. And it is pursuant to this that the President promised to partner with private sector players to make internet access more affordable for low-income households through targeted subsidies, discounted data packages, and device financing schemes. In February, I established a multi-stakeholder data cost pricing committee comprising telecom service providers, consumer groups, and the regulator. The committee was given a 14-day mandate to deliver a roadmap for implementation to achieve more cost-effective data prices. The committee delivered its report in 13 days. I'm grateful to all the stakeholders who worked assiduously and at no cost to the state, I repeat, at no cost to the state, to produce a short, medium, and long-term approach to data price rationalization in our country. Again, I say ayiko to them for their selfless service to our country. I have studied the roadmap document that they produced and referred it to the regulator, the NCA. The authority, under the able leadership of the Acting Director General, has held several engagements with mobile network operators to discuss and fashion out implementation plans and modalities. I have personally engaged with the CEOs of the 3 MNOs, and I am pleased to announce that all 3 have presented the Ministry and the regulator with specific improved data bundles for tertiary students across our country, as well as for content creation and gig economy demographics. In the coming days, the NCA will finalize the implementation and technical requirements with the relevant stakeholders for a public rollout of the specific data bundles. In the interim, I have agreed with all 3 mobile network operators to have unique data bundle packages for all of their subscribers, which is all Ghanaians, on 5 national holidays: Independence Day, May Day, Republic Day, Founders Day, and Farmers Day. The Independence Day test run was a resounding success, and I look forward to working with the NCA and the MNO on May Day for our next holiday offering and celebration of the workers of Ghana. I have also noted several complaints about the quality of service of almost all the network providers in the country. This past week, I have taken decisive policy decision to approve technology neutrality and additional spectrum for MTN Ghana. I've also directed the NCA to make an additional spectrum offer to Telecom Ghana. These are to provide both operators with more resources to improve their service offerings and quality of service. However, on the back of these approvals, I wish to serve notice that the NCA would, within 3 months of the assignment of this additional spectrum, begin a rigorous enforcement of quality of service on the providers. Failure to provide a marked improvement in quality of service by the network operators will result in stiff fines. The ministry and regulator have fidelity to the Ghanaian people, and we will ensure that it gets the best customer service and experience. The telecom sector has not been without its challenges. The previous government acquired Airtel Tigo and rebranded it as AT with a reported purchase value of $1. Nothing could have been more disingenuous and unpatriotic. When the company was bought, its debt portfolio stood at $400 million, and its revenues could not meet its monthly overheads. The core and billing platforms have reached the end of life, and both Bharti Airtel and Millicom, which operated Tigo, had failed to make any meaningful investments in both companies over the preceding 5 years. The decision to step in at the time can best be described as ill-informed and reckless. It was an abdication of responsibility by the then administration and minister to the best interest of Ghana. Today, after a debt restructuring arrangement, the debt portfolio at AT sits at about $200 million, rising every month as the company makes a monthly operating loss of 20 million Ghana cedis. The bleeding needs to be triaged, and urgent steps are underway to engage the company's creditors in negotiating haircuts to ensure the company's viability. I will be updating the nation in the course of this quarter on the policy directions the ministry will be taking as a sole shareholder to ensure the security of the jobs of employees and the long-term survival of the business. To effectively regulate technology in today's fast-evolving digital environment, I have initiated a comprehensive review of existing legislative and regulatory frameworks. The ministry I took over has legislation that should be in a museum and not as the underpinnings of a technology ministry. The current state of the legislative environment of the ministry is as follows. The Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT has no Establishment Act. Ghana Telecom Act of 2003. The Postal and Courier Services Regulatory Commissions Act of 2003, Act 649. The Electronic Communications Act 2008, Act 775. Electronic Transactions Act of 2008, Act 772. The National Communications Authority Act of 2008, Act 769. The Data Protections Act of 2012, Act 843, and the Cybersecurity Act of 2020, Act 1038. This means that most of our legislation is 17 to 21 years old. That's why I said our legislation should be in a museum and not running a technology ministry. We are redrafting all outdated legislation to ensure they reflect present realities, anticipate future developments, and provide a transparent, enabling environment for innovation, investment, and consumer protection. I am confident I will lay the revised legislation before Parliament in its next meetings. As part of this broader legislative effort, I convened strategic meetings with key stakeholders led by the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program across the startup and innovation ecosystem to build consensus on the way forward for the Ghana Innovation and Startup Bill. Together, we have developed a clear roadmap to finalize this bill. The landmark legislation is essential to creating a robust legal and regulatory framework that empowers startups to grow, attracts investment, and scales solutions that generate jobs and drive long-term economic transformation. I'm grateful to the directors of the ministry and our partners who have helped us achieve this march in so short a time. Recognizing the impact of emerging technologies, the President made a pre-election promise to develop a national digital transformation and emerging technology strategy to guide the ethical development and deployment of digital tools such as artificial intelligence and emerging tech for development. Following this, the ministry has prioritized dialogue on AI to fully assess its opportunities, security implications, and resource demands, and ensure we put the appropriate governance framework in place for an ethical, inclusive, and beneficial development and adoption of AI. Ghana has entered strategic partnerships with key partners such as the British High Commission, UNESCO, and other international organizations to support efforts towards Ghana's national AI strategy and blueprint. Furthermore, the ministry has commenced critical efforts to digitize the nation's essential data sets as a foundational step in our national AI agenda. This initiative aims to enable AI systems to learn from local data sets, ensuring that the models we develop reflect our lived realities, our cultural nuances, and our development priorities. AI models trained solely on foreign data sets risk overlooking indigenous knowledge and reinforcing learned biases that do not serve our interest. By anchoring AI developments on our data, we are safeguarding digital sovereignty and building truly Ghanaian technologies in design and purpose. Recognizing how critical prudent expenditure management is to Ghana's economic recovery, the Mahama administration has pledged to fight corruption and graft head-on. In line with this commitment, one of my first actions was to conduct a comprehensive assessment of the ministry's financial position to guide how best to move forward. This review unearthed several irregularities, prompting a detailed investigation into the contracts entered into the ministry, through the ministry and its agencies on behalf of the Ghanaian people. The ministry is following up with the relevant parties to establish the facts and take corrective action where necessary. We're deeply concerned about the disregard for public interest reflected in the unfavorable terms in some agreements and the resistance encountered in assessing key information from certain service providers. Against this backdrop, I've referred some contracts and agreements to the Attorney General for his study and advice. One thing, however, is crystal clear to me as Minister. I will clean up the ministry and its agencies. It is my solemn pledge to the President and the people of Ghana. And I wish to announce that on the back of the foregoing, I will not be extending the Common Monitoring Platform contract, popularly called KELNI GBG, beyond this current terminal date. The contract is in two parts, one paid for by my ministry through the NCA, and another component paid for by the Ministry of Finance through the GRA. The NCA will no longer extend the KELNI GBG contract. I've instructed the NCA to begin to hold itself in preparedness to carry out the revenue assurance platform on its own. This position is backed by the fact that at the commencement of the contract in 2018, the monthly fee the NCA paid the private partner represented 28% of the revenue accruing to the state from international inbound traffic. As we speak today, as at October 2024, the fees paid to KELNI GBG have moved from 28% of revenue to 84% of the revenue. This means the state is paying far more to monitor the revenue than it retains. Another agency under my ministry that has had considerable amount of my attention is the National Information Technology Agency, NITA. Some agreements that I have inherited have caused me deep concern, and I have begun steps to either extricate the government from unreasonableness or to achieve a more favorable arrangement that is in the best interest of Ghanaians. As part of operationalizing the digital service and payment platform DSPP call center, managed under a contract I inherited between NITA and Digital Gov Limited, two companies, Sortel Limited and Datasium Limited, provided project management services. Some of the irregularities we have observed in the ministry under this contract include the fact, one, NITA is making monthly payments to the two firms, despite the fact that the firms are not directly contracted by NITA. Instead, the firms that NITA is paying have contracts with Digital Gov Limited, and those contracts were signed on the 1st of March 2020 for an initial 4-year term ending February 29, 2024. Despite this, NITA has continued since the termination or expiration of the February 2024 contract. NITA has continued to make monthly payments directly to the two firms as service providers throughout the contract period, creating a misalignment in accountability and oversight. Both Sortel and Datasium appear to deliver nearly identical project management functions for the DSPP call center, with no clear delineation of roles, responsibilities, or reporting lines. Thirdly, the contract with both firms expired on February 29, 2024. There were no formal renewals, and no new engagement frameworks are in place, yet continued financial obligation continues. I have instructed the Director General of NITA to cease any further payments to both companies. The ministry is in the process of assessing the necessity to continue with either or both Datasium or Sortel in a bid to eliminate duplication and ensure cost efficiency in future project management support for the DSPP. And here I hold the view that the Accra Digital Center is well equipped to step in to provide those services. I've also directed an audit and update of the Smart Infraco Libera Ghana Limited e-government infrastructure agreement. Upon receipt of NITA's initial assessment report, I promptly took steps to restore compliance, transparency, and fiscal discipline in managing our national e-government infrastructure. I issued a directive for Smart Infraco to grant immediate full physical and logical access to the e-government infrastructure. This became necessary as the audit discovered that no financial dashboard or audit trail was provided to NITA to track revenue or operations as stipulated in the mother contract. Also, NITA personnel were denied physical and logical access to infrastructure that the agency legally owns, including the data center facility and the network operations center. NITA has initiated engagements to ensure compliance, and I'm happy to announce that we have made progress in establishing and verifying 95% access to our infrastructure. The ministry shall directly engage with Smart Infraco to compel immediate payment of all outstanding amounts, including and invoke penalties and termination clauses as necessary if need be to protect government's interest. To the people of Ghana, I offer you this assurance. I will get to the bottom of these issues and act decisively to restore sound financial stewardship in the Ministry of Communication, Digital Technology, and Innovation. Still on the subject of stewardship, I have directed the NCA to conduct a frequency audit as part of the government's Operation Recover All Loot, ORAL, initiative, aimed at identifying and reclaiming all state resources within the purview of the ministry which have been handed over to private interests in a manner inconsistent with law and laid down procedure. The exercise, the first phase of a full audit of broadcasting frequencies to ensure proper management and compliance with legal procedures, have identified incidents of non-compliance that will attract a total tax penalty of about 9.5 million Ghana cedis and several infractions that warrant immediate shutdowns or revocations of licenses. The government is committed to taking the necessary action to ensure rectification of the instances of non-compliance. In the period under review, I have taken steps to better position Ghana Post to take advantage of the increased e-commerce activity and to ensure Ghana's readiness to take full advantage of trading under the Africa Free Continental Trade Area after. Plans are underway to strengthen the backbone of domestic and cross-border trade logistics, especially for small businesses across the country looking to expand beyond national borders. To position Ghana Post as a relevant and competitive public service in 2025 and beyond, the Ministry is implementing a three-pronged reform strategy informed by an internal readiness assessment. First, we are updating existing infrastructure and information systems to reflect technological advancement and ensure resilience against cybersecurity threats. Secondly, we are modernizing logistics systems to guarantee faster and more reliable delivery across all regions. Thirdly, we are expanding service offerings to include e-commerce support, secure parcel handling, and access to critical public services. These reforms will transform Ghana Post into a vital enabler of e-commerce, cross-border trade, and citizen access to essential government services, laying the foundation for a more connected and efficient national economy. In line with the critical reforms necessary to reset the ministry when I took over, I took decisive steps in consultation with the World Bank Country Office in Accra to terminate the contracts of 13 staff under the Project Implementation Unit of the World Bank-funded Ghana Digital Acceleration Program. This became necessary to show our zero level of tolerance for any semblance of graft or corruption in the ministry. These terminations were patriotic action aimed to save the state from any representation that affects our international image. The ministry has secured clearance from the World Bank to replace the terminated staff, and we have proceeded to advertise the roles in the national dailies for 2 weeks, which lapsed last Friday. The interview panel is conducting a robust competitive assessment to select the best suited candidates as replacements. I have also directed the acting administrator of the Universal Access Fund, GIFEC, to immediately begin an asset inventory of all our infrastructure across the country to ensure that these centers, built primarily under the first John Dramani Mahama administration, are put to use as a 360-degree whole-of-government center, bringing digital government services to the doorsteps of Ghanaians. GIFEC has also stepped up work to complete the outstanding rural telephony project to improve Ghana's digital inclusion drive. The completion of the project will connect an additional 4 million Ghanaians to the digital highway. On the legislative flank, we have begun work to evolve GIFEC into the Digital Economy and Innovation Development Fund, in line with the NDC's Resetting Ghana manifesto. Even as I remain focused on delivering on the President's charge, I am minded by the increased incidence of orchestrated campaigns of mis- and disinformation. I have instructed the Cybersecurity Authority to immediately improve its digital surveillance and monitoring. Several collaborative operations with sister security agencies have been undertaken, and as we speak, some are currently underway, to send a clear signal that such acts of public mis- and disinformation will not be tolerated. The government once again reiterates our respect for the freedom of expression and the rights to public and private communication of citizens, but also wishes to remind us all that we have a collective civic duty to be responsible in our communication. In the spirit of full transparency, I will present a specialized legislative document on misinformation and disinformation before Parliament to be passed into law in its next meeting to create a clear legal framework for law enforcement. So notice is served. Once the law is passed, we will clamp down on you if you engage in mis- and disinformation. Ghana's digital voice continues to be heard on the global stage. From the Mobile World Congress and the ITU Forum to the World Bank Digital Summit and the Global Summit on AI in Africa, we have articulated our digital ambition and built valuable alliances. Our priorities remain clear as we advance: to build a digital Ghana where innovation thrives, access is equitable, and all shared technologies benefit. We have continued to deepen our strategic international partnerships, engaging in technology diplomacy with the UNDP, Germany, Turkey, and Italy to strengthen our digital infrastructure, policy frameworks, and innovation ecosystems. The World Bank, ITU, DCO, CTO, ATU, and Smart Africa remain strong partners in our digital reset agenda, and I'm grateful to them for their support so far. and I look forward to achieving our shared goals. As we move into the second quarter of the year, the Ministry is poised to make even more significant progress towards a sustainable plan to ensure reliable and affordable internet for all, the pilot of the 1 Million Coders program, the national AI strategy, and digitizing public service delivery. We would see the strengthening of our policy and regulatory framework. We would commence public sensitization and education towards the impending SIM registration. And let's be clear, I didn't say a SIM re-registration. SIM registration, a proper SIM registration. And we would also do a central equipment identity register. We believe that we will roll out on the 1st of July this year. And the NCA Director General is smiling because he wants the 1st of July date. So we will roll out 1st of July. But let me be clear, there will be no long queues. Ghanaians will not have to leave their jobs to go and queue. And that's why I said it's not a re-registration, it's a registration. It will be the first time you will have a proper registration of SIMs and documents driven by technology to ensure that from the comfort of your home, your SIM card will be verified and registered. Once more, I make that solemn pledge that Ghanaians will not be saddled to have to abandon work and queue for long hours to register their SIMs. The process will be human-centered, but technology-driven. The registration is critical for our collective security as a nation. Ghana's digital future is being built today with purpose, with strategic partnerships, and with the people at the center. Let's press forward. May God bless our homeland Ghana and make her great and strong. Thank you.
The Minister would now take a few questions just to clarify some of the issues raised or answer any lingering questions that may be agitating your minds. In the interest of time, we will take 2 rounds of questions. A first set of 5 questions, which will then be answered, and then another set of 5 questions. So put up your hand if you have a question. But each questioner is limited to 1 question only, so that we can make progress and be brief. All right, so please come up here. Or is there a microphone in the background? Now, please take it there so that you don't need to walk up here. Just take it to the middle there. Hand it over to those. Hand it. Oh, okay, all right, fine. So please come forward. The cameraman insists that they want to see the questions. So perhaps our effort to introduce innovation has been shut down. All right, any more questioners available can walk up here and join the queue. So please ask your question. Identify yourself and then ask your question. 1 question each, please.
All right, my name is Adnan Adams. I work for Economy Times newspaper. We're in a country where the telecommunication networks, I don't know what to say, whether they deliberately, manipulate their network. In certain situations where, for instance, you subscribe to a particular bundle where probably it's to the advantage of the customer, you realize that within that very moment, you cannot access internet the speed as it is before, like if you are using the regular bundle. And these things have been happening most of the times, even on holidays, you see these things happening. Then the normal bundle you have bought to, you cannot use it until the one you have subscribed to, finishes. So as a minister, what will you do to help improve the network services?
So in short, you want to know what the minister will do about what you perceive to be shortchanging of the customer by telco companies. All right, telecom companies. Yeah. Next question, please.
Thank you. Minister, you spoke about the debt owed American companies. Sorry, my name is Noble Crosby and I work with TV3. So on the debts owed by American companies by Airtel to Go, I understand the US ambassador says there's pressure from Washington for these debts to be paid, as it can potentially affect new investment in the country. So what plans are there by government to settle these debts? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any other question? Please come forward. We are taking 5 questions in this round, so after him there will be 2 more opportunities. If you have any question, please walk up here so we save time. Please come this way. Just okay.
Yeah. Thank you. My name is Arthur. Okay. Thank you. My name is Arthur Mensah from Ghana News Agency. Yes, the minister said there will be SIM registration and proper identification register.
Please speak up.
Yes, so I want to find out, because the previous government started a registration of SIM cards. And so I want to find out whether there are any shortfalls that have been identified that required registration of SIM card. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question? Please come forward. This will be the 4th question. If there's a 5th questioner, please walk up here so that we do not have to wait for you whilst you walk up.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Snize from Ghana Online. I would like to ask, since you are dealing with information, social media too has become one of the platforms that, people bring out information. With the new media or with the new social media, what is the ministry going to do about those who are hiding behind to bring out this false information out?
So you want to know what will be done about fake news? All right. A final question in this one. Please come up. We cannot be accused of gender imbalance. So you've saved us a lot.
Okay, so I'm Erica with MTN Ghana. I wanted to ask Erica with MTN Ghana.
Okay. MTN. Okay, this is highly unusual, but we welcome it nonetheless. Where a stakeholder asks a question at all right. Unless, of course, MTN now operates a media house. Anyway, please go on.
So I wanted to ask, during your press briefing, you gave some initiatives you had with the telcos, from GFX, rural telephony, and other stuff. So I wanted to know, apart from those strategies, do you have anything else in place? And also, during our CEOs at one, he mentioned something about fiber cuts, and I wanted to know what other plans you had for that.
All right. Thank you very much. Unusual MTN question. Well, the minister will fill these questions promptly, but I would like him to reiterate the bit about the 1 million coders program and how people can enroll on it, just for clarity. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. I think that I would start with the minister's question on 1 million coders, so we're clear about that. So there is a website that's been created. This is the pilot. The pilot is going to happen on Wednesday next week. That's the 16th. The pilot is going to be launched by His Excellency the President himself at 11 a.m. from the Ghana, India, Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT, right next to the Ministry of Communications. Now, what we're doing is, over the next 1 week, the portal is going to be open. It's www.1millioncoders.gov.gh. There are currently 6 courses that are available in 3 disciplines. You can go online, click on it, and fill the form as an applicant. There will be a review of the application, and if you're shortlisted, you would get notification. And we're taking applications for people to go to our physical training centers in Accra, in Kumasi, in Sunyani, and in Bolgatanga. We would launch on the 16th in the 4 centers at the same time. because we're a tech ministry, we can flex more and show that we have technology to connect across the country from 4 areas. So the URL again is www.1millioncoders.gov.gh, and you can fill out the form. The one is ONE. Everything is in words. So it's ONEMILLIONCODERS. Well, I'm just told that even if you use the number 1, it also works. So even the number 1 will work. So whether you spell it out in letters, yeah. So whichever ways you go about it, it shows you that there's been a reset even in our technology. But yeah. Adams from Economy Time spoke about data bundle pricing and specialized data bundles. I've gotten a number of tweets about that, and the Director General of the NCA is here. He's the regulator. It's one of the things that the NCA is actively looking at. If we find any incidents of price fixing or price tampering by any of the telecom operators, be rest assured the regulator would instill or impose very stiff fines. We have a regulator that is on top of their beat and will not tolerate anything that shortchanges the Ghanaian people. The thing about specialized data bundles is that at times the pricing per megabyte may be different from a regular bundle that you have bought. So you always need to be minded about the terms and conditions. Because whenever you get an offer, people look at the big print and don't read the fine print. So at times you see specialized or special data bundles, but if you read the fine print, the per megabyte pricing is different from your other data bundles. So this in itself could account for what appears to be the speed of certain data bundles and all. But again, the regulator will look at how we can have a harmonized system so that people have a uniformed customer experience whether they're using the regular bundles or whether they're using special event bundles. But I can rest assured on the 5 Independence Day, 5 public holiday bundles. And I know there are people who said, oh, Sam George and the president are taking credit for something that used to happen. They never used to give you 5 national holidays. So it's a new thing that on Independence Day, on May Day, on Founders Day, on Republic Day, and then on Farmers Day, we would have uniform data offerings across all the networks. Some of the people who criticized me during the Independence Day, they bought the bundles that we had offered them and used it to bash us. But yeah, that's the beauty of democracy. So they should look forward to May Day, 1st May, to celebrate our workers. There will be another data bundle offering. Noble from TV3 asked about the debt to ATC and plans to settle. Well, it's one of the biggest headaches I've had. And like I said, this is debt that was not acquired by government, or did not happen by failure of government, but simply by the policymakers' decision to buy a company that was struggling. Poor management on the part of 2 private entities, Bharti Airtel and Millicom Ghana, who had run Airtel and Tigo into the ground. We had no business intervening the way we did to take over 400 million of debt and claim that we had bought the company for $1. But that's where we are today. In the past 8 weeks, I have engaged with ATC at the country level, at the Africa level, and at their national, the headquarters level. I've met with a team from the US on this matter. We have made some headway. I mean, the city value term of the debt to ATC is about 1.5 billion Ghana cedi. We've heard of the incidents of a senator threatening to block IMF payments all because of ATC debt. But we've had very constructive conversations even with the American ambassador, and they've come to a position where they are willing to take a significant haircut. As it stands right now, the offer on the table is somewhere in the region of about 500 million. So we are saving about $1 billion of the debt. We are getting them to write that off. But I'm still pushing for even more to drive what is outstanding even further down. And we're not doing it all in cash. We're doing it in a mix of cash, tax, and a few other assets that we can look at, so that the real liability sitting there that we need to pay readily with cash now has dropped from about $190 million to about $10 million. That's the kind of negotiation we've done in the last 8 weeks. And I'm working with the Attorney General and the Finance Minister to see how we can manage and build a payment plan towards that. Ataменsan from GNA asked about SIMREG and the CEIR, the Centralized Equipment Identity Register. So let's call a spade a spade. Today, and we've had instances of this, when the state, through its security agencies, needs to identify a person of interest using their SIM card, it's next to impossible. Because the SIM registration or re-registration that Ghanaians were put through about 3 years ago or 2 years ago did no verification on the back end. There was no single source of truth to verify against. And so yes, biometrics were taken, but they were not matched against anything. And that's why today you have SIM cards that are registered to people's Ghana cards that the people themselves did not register. That's why today, even though there was a limit of 10 cards per Ghana card, there are instances where one Ghana card has been used to register over 30 cards because there was no matching. Many people have, and there was an instance, law enforcement instance that I encountered in my very first week. We're working with the then Cybersecurity Director General. We identified a number, saw the Ghana, did a cross-referencing with the number, the Ghana card that was used to register the card, geolocated the person, security did an operation, but it became immediately clear that the individual whose Ghana card, who we had picked up on the back of his Ghana card, was not the same person as the person who was using the same card. And that's simply because you have unscrupulous people who registered pre-registered SIM cards using people's Ghana cards. You go and you try to register, and then they tell you, oh, the network is down. It didn't go through, but they had registered a SIM card. And then they take your card again and do another registration. And then they begin to sell those pre-registered SIM cards. And so you will be an innocent person sitting down, and because your Ghana card had been used to pre-register a SIM card that was used in fraud, you'll be picked up. So people may think that, oh, but we went through the hassle. Yes, and I appreciate it. I was Christian Stubborn Academy because I opposed the registration process, because we questioned the technical basis of doing what was being done. And that's why I make a solemn pledge to you that you will not have to queue. You will not have to go and leave work for a day or two to get your SIM registered. There's a whole simple technical process behind it. It will be interactive. It will engage you. The regulator has seen the demo of it and how it works. We are very clear in our minds what we're going to do. Because if you've submitted your biometrics to the NIA, and the NIA has captured your biometrics, it's a simple opportunity for us to match what MTN or Telecel or AT holds against a certain number and cross-reference and send you a prompt to confirm if that number was really registered by you. So if someone has registered with your Ghana card without your knowledge, and that number is brought to your attention, and you indicate that that is not your number, we blacklist it. If it is your number and the biometrics match, we whitelist your number and you get a prompt letting you know that your identity has been verified. But we will go a step further to now do what we call the Central Equipment Identity Register. Now that is a registration not of your SIM, but of your phones. Every phone has an IMEI number, which is global and it's a unique identifier, it's a fingerprint of your phone. And so we're also going to be sending you prompts to do the registration of your phone. Now, there are two reasons why we do this. One is because of national security, to be able to identify the phone and match a phone to a SIM card and know who it is. That's using what SIM card in what phone. But secondly, is also because statistics is showing that almost 60% of phones in the country are smuggled. And no taxes have been paid on them. And so when this register is done, it's easy for you to determine whether the phone that's been sold to you came in legitimately and whether the tax has been paid on it. If the tax has not been paid on it, you can demand of the vendor to pay the tax, because a time will come where if the tax has not been paid, the use of the phone will be impossible. And so there are compliance measures. But you see, the good thing about that is it also helps us to create an opportunity to improve financial inclusion. Because now the access to credit using fintech becomes secured, because fintech operators who are giving loans on phone, who don't get to see you, know that in the case of a default, it's possible to reset your use of your phone. I was careful to see, when I said it is possible, to quickly add a reset. So we will do that, and the shortfalls, yeah, and stolen phones, for example. If your phone were to be stolen and you were to report, we'll be able to identify if your phone and your number match your Ghana card, which we use to verify and register you, and immediately triangulate and geolocate the phone and disable that phone. So then the ecosystem for stolen phones is gone. Because if you steal somebody's phone and a report is made, you can't sell the phone because nobody can use the phone. It's blocked and locked. And we're not just doing this here. Once we're done here, we're going to marry our central equipment identity register with our neighbors in the sub-region. So you can't even steal from here and take it to Nigeria. Or you can't steal from Togo and bring to Ghana. Because once it is flagged in any country, in the sub-region, we will block it completely. So we are putting a few people out of business. But I think that's a good thing. Isaac from Ghana Online asked about fake news and what will be done. I'm clear in my mind, and the Acting Director General and deputies from cybersecurity are present here. I have mandated that a team dedicated to building digital dossiers has been working for the past 2 weeks. And so for those who've been engaged in mis and disinformation, know that criminal offense has no limitation of time. We will be going to Parliament as soon as Parliament resumes in May. It's going to be one of the first things I'll lay before Parliament, a specialized legislation on fake news. Today, you can choose to extend the reach of the Cybersecurity Act to try and do some prosecution, but it's a very long stretch. And so we're coming in with specialized legislation that will be very respectful of the freedoms of speech. Very respectful of the freedoms of speech. But where the lines are crossed on intentional misinformation or palpable disinformation, the law will be spelled out from Parliament on what the punishment will be. We cannot be in a jungle on the internet. And the law would work in tandem with platform operators to ensure that as quickly as possible, we deal decisively with those. So once again, I repeat, the era of fake news is coming to an end. We don't want to act arbitrarily, and that's why we want to lay the law before Parliament and be backed by law. And so we will work together to work on it, but be minded, we're already building the digital dossiers. And so once the law is passed, we'll swing into action immediately to deal with it. Erica from MTN, and I mean, it's a novelty that had a player here ask questions. Any other thing policy-wise? Yes, there's a lot policy-wise. But like I said, I'm reporting for Q1 the things we've done. There's a lot of things that are in the pipeline or being worked on, for example, our smart data policy, the data exchange hub, a number of things we're working on. Support for farmers using tech, healthcare using tech. There's a lot we're working on, but because we have not finalized it in Q1, I'm sure that by the time I'm doing my Q2 reports, maybe in the first week of July or end of June, I'll be telling you a few more on the other things. I didn't want to come and stand here and say, we will. So if you listen to me, everything I've spoken about is what we have done in Q1. And so there's a lot more from the ministry coming your way. Fiber cuts, absolutely critical. And we've been working with the Chamber on telecoms on that. Engineer Ken Ashibe sent me pictures from my constituency last week where there was a major fiber cut in the Dawa enclave. And then just 3 days ago, Ghana Water cut fiber around somewhere, a very high-profile residential area in Accra. And it's one of the problems we're dealing with. But I'm looking forward to working with the Minister of Water Resources, Works and Housing, and the Minister for Roads and Highways to have clear understanding that you cannot say you are going to construct a road. You cannot be Ghana Water and just go and cut into the road and then cut fiber. It's impossible. And again, working with the Chamber of Telecoms, there's work on specialized legislation on fiber cuts. Because the question now becomes, when the fiber is cut, they just cut it and they leave. And it comes back as cost to the telecom operators. And because the telecom operators are not descendants of Mother Teresa, they pass on that cost to the same Ghanaians. And we complain about the cost of data. Because data can only come through fiber. And so when the fiber is cut, it affects our pricing. Because in their model, they're always putting in a certain variable for fiber cuts. And we need to deal with it. So that when roads are going to be constructed, they will get in touch with the regulator and the ministry to identify where fiber is laid, and then we can do the relocation of the fiber properly. I think that one of the things we'll do is to deepen the designations of critical national information infrastructure and make it a criminal offense, irrespective of whether you are a road contractor or whether you are Ghana Water. If you cut fiber, you'll be criminally liable for cutting it. Because if you remember 3 years ago, when we had a triple fiber cut in the country on the same day, 70% of our country could not make phone calls. Imagine what that means for a country like this. Or when we had the subsea cable cut, what that did to us. And so fiber is now our lifeline. And so we need to protect it well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for that comprehensive answer. We will take one more round of questioning, if there are any. Please come forward. So everyone who has a question to ask should proceed to my left side so that we save time in the process. So once again, identify yourself and restrict yourself to one question. Yes, please go
My
ahead.
name is Ibrahim from VOA. The question I'm having is that national identification card, there's a lot of people who have not registered. And still in progress that there's a lot of people who have not get their national identification card. So how to register? How is the minister going to solve that issue? Thank you.
Okay. So you mean, how are there any ways through which people who do not have national ID cards can register? Or better still, is national ID card the only registration document that is applicable in the SIM registration? All right. It's an important question, yes. All right.
Good afternoon, Honourable Minister. I think there is high incidence of...
You've not identified yourself.
Sorry, my name is Nana Boku from Daily Searchlight Nusufa. There's high incidence of internet fraud. You are there, somebody say, oh, I want to take you to UK to go and work there. Somebody will say, oh, I'll double your money for you. All kinds of information on the, just to do people on the internet. What are your ministry going to do to suppress this kind of, if you like, internet fraud? A lot of things are going on. And then my second question, if you care. You made mention of the fact that you are going to review some agreements signed by the previous administration. Aren't you going to incur some management debt, if I may ask?
Well,
I think my question has been answered. Okay. So,
his smuggled is in anyway, but it's been achieved. All right.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable. My name is Isaac, and I'm a citizen of Ghana. Yes.
I see.
I really love the project.
That's also unusual, but there's a media briefing, but anyway.
On the 1 million project in IT, your mention is gender balance, 50 for male and 50 for female. If possible, can we make 5% for persons with disability, for physically challenged, hearing impaired people, so that they can benefit from the training? Otherwise, sometimes it's not intentional, but we can tend to forget about our dear persons with disability. So that is my plea. Thank you.
That is a brilliant suggestion by all standards. Yeah.
I am Obed. I work with EIB Network. My name is Obed. I work with EIB Network. So about the stewardship, you mentioned 2 remedies. 1, penalties and shutdowns. When media people hear about shutdowns, we often think about media freedom. What assurance are you giving us that this will be done in an objective manner without any political vindictiveness? Thank you very much, Minister.
All right, so, Mr. Minister, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, and I'll try to keep this very brief. Ibrahim from VOA, Ghana Card Circulation. Just yesterday, I visited the company that produces the Ghana cards, ICMPS, I think they're called Margins, Ghana. And we looked at their facilities. Per the statistics, we have about 80%, I was told, or slightly over 80% of distribution of Ghana cards. I'm happy to note that the acting executive secretary of the National Identification Authority, Yaira Poku, announced earlier this week that in Greater Accra, they were doing a redistribution of Ghana cards. So if you had registered and you didn't have cards, there was the possibility for you to pick up your card. Now, one of the key things that we could actually do from here to help the Ghana card, the NIA, will be to get a database of cards that have been printed that have not been distributed, and build and query the database for those cards to generate the phone numbers of the individuals whose cards, because there are phone numbers assigned to every, that we used to do during the registration of the Ghana card, you provided phone numbers. So with the query of the database, we can get those phone numbers, and at the Communication Ministry, I'm sure we can be able to work closely with NIA, once we get those phone numbers, to work with MNOs to send text messages, identify their current locations, because people would have, some people may have moved, and then we can then use our GIFEX CICs as distribution centers, where those are closer than regional offices of the NIA, where people can go and pick up their Ghana card. So the solutions exist for us to, but the vision and the dream is to make sure that every Ghanaian gets a Ghana card so that they will be able to register. Again, on the SIM registration thing, there are also instances where one person, the father's Ghana card, was used to register for the wife and all the children and nannies and everybody in the house. I'm sure we'll look at the dispensation and see how well we can decouple at this point in time, now that people have gotten their Ghana cards, so that each individual can have their Ghana card linked to their name. You don't want to be a father and you are sitting there and you get picked up because your son has gone to misbehave. And when they check the Ghana card, it was your name on it. So we'll look at that. Nana Poku from Daily Searchlight, internet fraud, money doubling, worrying. Let me use this opportunity to plead with my countrymen and women, especially the young people of our country. I know that we are all looking for opportunities, but no minister of state, no member of parliament will come on Facebook or TikTok, leave everything that they have to do, and come into your inbox to greet you ask you how are you doing, and ask you how can they be of help to you. We've not finished solving the problems in our constituencies. So when anybody makes such an approach, bear in mind that it is not legitimate. No minister, no MP would approach you, or CEO of state of an SOE would approach you and ask you to go and pay 1,000 Ghana cedis for protocol. It is a scam. We have asked all appointees of states to submit their official handles so that we can get them properly verified. But that in itself is not a panacea. I, for one, have all my accounts verified, but still people are falling prey. In fact, one of the accounts that defrauded somebody, I asked the person, I said, did you just take your time? Because instead of MP for Ningo Pram Pram, they wrote MP for Bingo Pram Pram. But the person was so excited that Sam George had sent him a message asking him what to do. Unfortunately, he got defrauded to the tune of 64,000 Ghana cedis. Took a loan, claiming that I was doing recruitment. So people need to be careful. And so I beg you, I think that the biggest, and that's one of the reasons why we are changing the mandate of GIFEC. From just being a universal access fund doing last mile connectivity to being a digital economy and innovation development fund that would also focus on digital literacy. Because when you are digitally literate, you realize that certain things are just scam. And so please, from our end, as and when we get reports of accounts engaged in this, we'll continue to collaborate with law enforcement and platform operators. Because bear in mind, people say, oh, take down the accounts, take down the accounts. It's because some people have made allusions to the fact that the Minister for Communication ordered the NCA to block their accounts and all. I don't have the power to take down an account on a platform that is run by Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg. The Minister of Communication in Ghana does not have control over what accounts are run there or not run there. So we don't have the power to just take them down. And because these are platforms that are outside of our jurisdiction, they are not necessarily subject to Ghanaian law. They operate under the laws of the jurisdictions in which they operate. And so the threshold for taking down an account, especially when the request comes from a state entity or law enforcement, is very high, because they don't want it to look as though you are infringing on the rights of people. So even when there is clear evidence, I have reported pages that are pretending to be me to Facebook, and Facebook has verified me. But after I reported, they told me that those pages don't breach community standards. So I think that the biggest panacea is digital literacy. Money doubling is not just happening online. And that's a matter that I have engaged the Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission, Mr. George Sapong, on. Let me be clear. Content is not the forte of the NCA or the ministry. Content is under the regulatory supervision of the National Media Commission. I have engaged, like I said, I'm writing officially this week to the National Media Commission to let them know that if we do not see improved action, especially because there is now a joint collaborative framework with the NCA, we've provided them a broadcast monitoring center. If the NMC does not its gain in moderating content on our TV stations, we will be compelled to use the regulatory powers of the NCA in making sure that defaulting stations do not influence our children in a way that is unbecoming. I will not worry or lose sleep over any tag that the media or any international body will put on me, so long as I do right by the children of Ghana. And let's be minded, it's happened already. You remember the instance of the 13-year-old in Kaswa who killed a young friend of his because he watched a ritualist on TV asking for a human head. We need to protect our children. And so as broadcasters, you have a responsibility. You have a freedom of expression, but you have a responsibility to the children of our country. You must manage your freedom with the responsibility of content that you put out. And so, notice is hereby served. By the end of this quarter, we will clamp down heavily on stations involved who are operating using our frequency. We're not going to be getting into the issue of your content. We're simply going to be taking our frequency authorization to protect the Ghanaian children. We will be withdrawing our frequency authorization. Because if you would not self-regulate, the state will self-regulate you. Because we would not, in the name of freedoms, expose our children to unwholesome content. And the problem is that some of this content is even shown as early as 5 and 6 p.m. So media houses and media owners, you have a responsibility. And I'll be acting lawfully because the Constitution and the Act gives us the right to act in public safety and public interest instances to protect our children. That leads me to the issue of that Obed asked EIB. I did not say I was going to shut down radio stations. What I said is that there are infractions. In fact, in the immediate instance I would reference, I ordered the shutdown of 1 and the revocation of 6 licenses. I shut down, I directed the NCA to immediately take action to shut down a radio station in the Boku area, Guma FM. Now that again, I exercised extreme caution. We all know what's going on in Boku. When I got the request from State Security, I said to them that until I saw a certain process, I will not act. And so we acted in good faith. There was a RegSec meeting at the Regional Coordinating Council where all stakeholders were present. Their report was filed. That was sent to the Ministry of Local Government, forwarded to the Ministry of Interior, and it came to us. In the 10 days when I failed to act in court because I was waiting to follow due process, 7 people were killed. And so there is actually a cost associated at times with not acting expeditiously. But because we wanted to be minded by the law, we went through the process. And so that station had its license revoked because it wasn't the first time. The previous government had actually suspended their license. They had signed a bond to be of good behavior, and then they had been reinstated, and then they had gone back to do the same, and was posing risk to our men and women in uniform who are serving in Boku, and will continue to protect them. The other 6 stations had varying degrees of infractions, paperwork, fees, and so I have not revoked those licenses. I've suspended those licenses. There's a difference between the two. What happened previously was a revocation of licenses. This one we're suspending. And we're giving you the opportunity to come and remedy the situation. If you have to submit your tax clearance, bring your tax clearance. If you have to pay regulatory fees, come and pay them. And then we will reinstate you. But let me be very clear on one thing. The Justice Dateba ruling on the Radio Gold case has made it clear that if you allow your license to lapse, even if you were my blood brother, I will not be able to renew your license for you. The Dateba ruling is clear that you cannot, radio frequency authorizations are not like driver's license. If the license lapses, you don't have anything again to renew. And now the NCA has commenced serving notices 6 months before the expiration of your license, notifying you, because you need to indicate by law 3 months to the expiration that you will renew your license. They remind you 6 months, they remind you 3 months, and remind you in the week of its termination or expiry, and you still don't go to renew. You can't blame anybody when you come for a renewal and we tell you that there is nothing to renew. The law is the law. We'll comply with the law. So please, again, all media houses, ensure that you comply with the renewal regulations of the NCA. So be rest assured, we are not going to shut down arbitrarily. In fact, there's about what? DG, 50, the outstanding ones, there's about 53, eh? About 53 in different categories. I still haven't acted, not because we have not concluded the audit, but I've taken my time to engage Media Foundation for West Africa and put the evidence before them. The next step for me is to go to Parliament, put the evidence before Parliament itself, before announcing the suspensions. And when I announce the suspensions, we would give them a time frame within which they can restore, they can rectify and cure the anomalies, and we would reinstate those licenses. There has to be discipline. You would agree with me. If your media house is paying all of its fees and submitting all of its documents, I don't think it's fair to you that someone else would sit back and not do what they ought to do, and we say that because of media freedoms, everybody, then next year you won't do, because then everybody will say media freedom. There needs to be some level of discipline. Quota for PWDs, asked by Isaac, citizen of Ghana. Today I thought when he said citizen of Ghana, I thought it was a new media house. But Isaac, I mean, that's a very good one. The program is inclusive, and so we will engage the National Council of Persons with Disabilities to see what models we can create for visually impaired people and for hearing impaired people, to see what we can do. In fact, this morning, one of the meetings I had with my technical advisor before we came here was with a young gentleman. I'm sure many of you have seen him on social media in the past week. So we invited him and brought him down from Kumasi, Mafred, the iPhone repairer. When he walked into the office, I was shocked. I was like, sorry, are you a kid or are you grown? But he's a grown man, you know, and the work he does. And, you know, in all modesty, he said to me, he's shocked at our amazement at the video, because that video is nothing for him compared to the work he does. And he showed us evidence of some of the things he does. And so Kofi Annan, I've instructed that we will see what partnership we can do with him, because he's training people. And this is someone who was self-taught. He showed me an iPhone locked to a network in the US. That is eSIM, only eSIM, so has no SIM tray. He picked the phone, disassembled the phone, reworked the motherboard, and has put 2 MTN SIM cards on. And so when you take the phone and go to the software, the settings page of the phone, it shows you that it is SIM locked to, and shows you the network is SIM locked to, but MTN calls are going pepper on it. You know, we've got talent, and we want to see how well we can scale up some of this talent. He can become a trainer that's training people, because he says in 2 years, he's trained people from Accra. People have left Accra to come to learn from him. And so we can work with, and these are things that, some of these things, if the person is hard of hearing, they can still learn because they've got the eye and they've got their hands. So these are things that we can help people learn. And so we'll work together with all of you. And thank you once again for this opportunity. I'm grateful.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for what has been a very useful interaction, through which we have learned a lot about your activities and what the future holds for the entire communications and digital innovation space. I thank all the directors and officials of the ministry who accompany the minister to this point, and all the media men through whose lenses we have been able to reach the people of Ghana. Thank you very much, and meet you next time.
morning, I wake up to this miracle, sleeping soundly. But mornings weren't always this peaceful. I remember the sleepless nights, leaks that woke us both up, damp clothes and tears.